Hi guys, this is the Loud Voice podcast and I'm your host, Tatina Wasa. As you all know, this podcast is all about climate change, all about climate justice and climate action. And we're just trying to bring in youths and young people into the dialogue tables on what climate change is and how we can solve them. But also in that process, making this information easier for them to understand. Because let's say the truth, you can't work on what you don't know. Can't work on solving what you still don't understand. And I'm hoping every guest I'll be bringing here on this podcast, on these episodes, are going to make the whole jargon, the whole science of it, the whole politics of climate change a little bit easier for us young people, so that by the time we decide now we want to act, or even if it's tomorrow or next year, now you know what it is exactly you're acting on. I'm so happy that today I have a guest with me, and he's a young man who is passionate about waste management for commercial buildings, residential buildings, and master plans. And Luther has worked for several countries, just trying to bring up the meaning of, because waste management really affects climate change directly, not indirectly. So I'm happy to get to bring him here for him to talk about waste management and the whole process of it and everything he's been doing just for it to translate to climate action. Okay. So Luther, welcome to the Loud Voice podcast. That introduction is not enough for you, and I'd just like to give you the baton, so that you can introduce yourself, your full names, whatever it is you're doing, and how it translates to climate action.
Sure.
Yes.
Well, it was a great introduction. So my name is Luther Hinga. I'm 28 years old. I've been working in the waste management industry for 6 years. So the first 2 years I worked for a company called Suez, which is one of the big three waste collection companies. What a waste collection company does is collect waste from where it's generated, from residential buildings, commercial buildings, maybe industrial sites as well, manufacturing plants for an alternative word. And it transports this waste in large vehicles and disposes this waste in recycling facilities, recovery facilities and landfills. So that's generally their business, and I worked in account management and consultancy for 2 years, as mentioned, in England, France and Germany. So that was the first 2 years of the 6. The second 2 years of the 6, I worked for an NGO called Waste Aid UK. It was a small charity NGO at the time based in the UK, where I was a project manager for international development projects on the theme of waste management. So I was project manager for the countries of Kenya, Cameroon and The Gambia. So I got to travel to Naivasha. That's where one of my projects was, in one of the informal settlements called Kwamuhia there. I went to Douala, Cameroon, and looked at supporting a private sector company, collect waste and train local people with the skills to collect waste, to recycle waste and make paving tiles out of plastics, as well as behavior change and marketing skills, which was very fulfilling. And the last experience was in the Gambia. However, at that point, I didn't get to travel to the Gambia. So the next, and rather the last 2 years, I've been currently working for a company called Bureau Hapold, and they are essentially a civil engineering design consultancy that supports architects, developers as well, with rather the engineering logic behind buildings. So architects are more on the arty side, they're more of the aesthetic side in regards to designing a building. They want the building to look nice, they want the users to have a good experience. However, structurally and maybe engineering wise, it may not be sound. So a civil engineer needs to come in to support them with, different calculations, different assessments to ensure that the architects are not only designing a beautiful building, but a building that is engineeringly feasible. So that was a very interesting experience. I've worked in designing operational waste management strategies for buildings and master plans in Europe and the Middle East. And a really special experience which I got this year is heading out to the Gambia finally in April 2023, where
working remotely.
Exactly. So traveled out to the Gambia, and I supported the World Bank in informing the Gambian government on waste management and circular economy policies to include in their bills and amendments to regulations. So yeah, that was very fulfilling. So that's hopefully a good introduction.
Yeah, that is quite intense. Could have known all that.
Yeah.
So, Luther, I know one major problem that we have in Kenya and most countries in Africa and around the world is waste management.
Yeah.
And in Kenya, we have this behavior and tendencies. I don't know if you've seen it in the other areas you've worked in, that we create a big dump site on the ground, and we decide this is the area where we're going to dump everything. But also, I know one thing is people say waste is nutritious to the soil. I don't. You'll go into that, but one, I have to ask you, why waste? Why? How does it work? Why did you decide on waste of all the things?
Well, to be fair, most people that work in the waste industry, they always say that they fell into it. It's not something that, you wake up dreaming, you want to work
I want
in,
to
right?
work with trash.
Exactly, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Most people dream about being a footballer, a musician, etc. So the first job I was able to get outside of university, where I studied a chemical engineering degree, was actually back in Nairobi first, working in Mulolongo at a FMCG manufacturing plant in the production department. That was good. However, it was in one position. I'm an extrovert. I like to travel to different places and stuff. So I didn't really like that. Then I got the opportunity to go back to the UK for sewage recycling and recovery. And I said, you know what, let me just give it a try. I was going to do a master's. I didn't do it in the end, and I still haven't done it. And yeah, 6 years have gone by. And yeah, it's something that, it's a very physical problem, and everyone seems, you tend to sort of grow a love for it. It's not something that, like I said, you go into saying,
you dream about.
Exactly. So, yeah, you just get good at it, and then you see how much good you can do, and, how many interesting projects there are around the world, and, the things you get to see. Like I've mentioned some of the countries I've been able to go to, fortunately. And yeah, it's been a very fulfilling experience. So yeah, when you do something long enough, you tend to sort of enjoy it more, right? So I'm in that stage.
So what exactly do you do when it comes to waste management, when it comes to residential and commercial buildings and master plans?
Sure.
Do you tell them that this is the system you have to follow, or this is where the trash has to follow?
Yeah.
Or what is it called, elimination of trash? Yeah. What exactly do you do?
Cool. So to put it simply, if you're in a commercial building like we are in the Sarova Imperial Hotel, essentially, once this building is being designed, I will work with the architects to calculate how much waste, using Microsoft Excel and different formulas, the size of the waste store, how much waste is generated based on the planning policies in whatever part of the world I'm working in. If you're looking at the UK, different boroughs and different cities have different policies in terms of how much waste should be generated in a restaurant or in an office. It's very different. And these benchmarks to calculate how much waste is generated in restaurants or offices are calculated via scientific readings. So in terms of Kenya, for example, we don't have that comprehensive policy and enforcement behind actually calculating how much waste is generated in the building and submitting what I mentioned in my talk about a operational waste management strategy. It's a lot of detailed information, so I'm trying to keep things light. So yeah, so it just depends on what markets you are in the world or countries. If you're in the UK or Europe or the Middle East, they're more stringent on their planning policy. However, in other markets, that you may be able to construct a building without doing all the scientific readings and calculations, and that has an impact, as you can see in the dump sites and the burning of waste here, because things haven't been done in potentially a methodological way.
I saw a presentation of yours that waste can be our treasure. How then do you convert waste from dump sites into treasure?
Sure. So I'll introduce this concept to everyone, which is called the commodities market. So in the world, essentially, each commodity, which can be plastics, cardboard, paper, glass, has a price. Much like gold or silver, you can find an index of the current price for that, or even a certain stock. The same is with recyclable materials. And there's people all around the world that actually buy these materials, because there's policies in different countries that state that if you're making a water bottle, it needs to have 30% recycled plastic, right? So a demand is generated, hence a price. So for example, I'll use one material, PET plastic water bottles. Not the top is HDPE plastic, which you open and you know, hopefully you re-screw on. But the actual plastic water bottle that contains the water, what that can be turned into in terms of treasure is plastic pellets after it's shredded and grinded up, and then it can be used to make polyester clothing. So anything that you have in your wardrobe that is polyester can be made from PET plastic, from recycling PET plastic. So the countries that actually do this the most is countries situated in Asia, Southeast Asia. They tend to buy plastic in bulk, like tons and tons of square, cubed, compressed plastic, PET plastic, ship them across from Europe, the US, all the way to China. They process them into polyester clothing, and then we sell that back. So there's that exchange, right?
That is how you turn it into treasure.
Yes.
Okay. So this podcast is all about climate change, climate justice, climate action. How does waste management translate into climate action?
Sure.
What is the connection now?
Sure. It's a very difficult question to answer. I think there's so many different stakeholders that need to be engaged, and there needs to be a very strong leader and a project manager to make sure that waste management actually achieves climate action. But as mentioned, if we're looking at, you know, the issues in Kisumu where we're at, to stop waste being thrown in Lake Victoria, or maybe organic waste being thrown in Lake Victoria as well, contributing to eutrophication, we need a very strong monitoring and enforcement system to prevent citizens from doing this. Furthermore, we need the infrastructure like waste transfer stations, materials recycling facilities, and organic treatment facilities to process this waste and turn it into a form where it can be sold internationally. And in my opinion, that's how we get out of the cost of living crisis that's going on in this country, by actually innovating and investing in new industries, and being more competitive in the global market.
I wish we had more time to get into that, because it's so interesting, especially now that I'm from Kisumu, more people around large water bodies where there's so much trash being thrown into our rivers, into our lakes and things like that. And we are losing the lake. That is what I hear. We're losing the lake, we're losing the life in water. And I wish we had time to like debunk all that, but unfortunately we don't. I'm hoping we can still do this, even if it's through a live someday. Yeah, that is all I had. Yeah, I know it's short, but it served its purpose. I know it did. That is so much information that even I didn't know, and I'm happy you're doing something in waste management, because right now in Kisumu it was somewhere here. You've been to Kisumu before?
I'm from Kisumu.
You're from Kisumu. It used to be somewhere here next to Moi Stadium,
and
then now it has been transferred because we need the city clean. It has been taken somewhere. I feel like it has not solved anything, because it's just you taking the problem here and dumping it to another place. Okay,
closer to Harrow, right?
Yeah. No, somewhere in Kajulu, I think.
Okay,
right? Somewhere in Kajulu near the mountain.
Okay,
near the up there, somewhere in Kajulu. So it's like transferring the issue and not really solving it. But I hope, best thing is that dump site is now being turned, the former dump site being turned into something that can work for the people. Maybe we'll pick it again and put it somewhere else. We need to renovate that place. So it's so bad that this is it, but we can still work on you telling us more, right?
Certainly, yeah.
Yeah, I'm so happy you got to Grace the Loud Voice podcast. And yeah, that is all we had from me and Luther Hinga.
Indeed.
So, because that is all we had, we just like to say bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.